The moment Caitlin Clark stepped onto a professional court, something quietly shifted inside the WNBA. At first, it looked like a simple rookie wave, new fans, sold-out arenas, louder crowds. But behind the scenes, something far more serious was building. And now, two massive developments are colliding at the same time. A commissioner rumored to be on her way out, and a Nike deal so big it changes the league's future overnight. That timing isn't random, it's the result of a power struggle that's been brewing for nearly 2 years.
WNBA finals, and so I'll leave it there. I mean, I'm just obviously disheartened. You know, I'm a human too. I have a family. I have 2 kids who are devastated by these comments, and so all I'll say is just, you know, it's obviously...
Because this story isn't really about basketball anymore. It's about control. It's about who actually runs the WNBA. And it's about how one player forced an entire system to expose its cracks. For months now, reports have been circulating inside sports business circles that Commissioner Cathy Engelbert has been quietly preparing an exit strategy. Nothing loud, nothing official, just conversations. Meetings. Contingency planning. And what makes it shocking is the timing. The league is more popular than it's ever been. Ratings exploded, merchandise is flying off shelves, franchise values are climbing. On paper, everything looks like a success story. But internally, the league has been dealing with a problem it never planned for. What happens when your biggest asset becomes bigger than your leadership? That question is where things started to unravel. And the first domino didn't fall inside the WNBA office. It fell inside Nike headquarters. While the league was still debating whether Caitlin Clark was great or just popular, Nike made a decision that ended the argument. Quietly, strategically, they moved to the next phase of her partnership. What was once reported as a major deal suddenly became something much bigger. Insiders began whispering that the new structure could nearly double the original numbers discussed back in 2024. This wasn't just an endorsement anymore. This was a lifetime alignment. A signature shoe rollout, a global campaign, a brand commitment that treats Clark less like a player and more like a global engine. Projections suggest her merchandise could outsell multiple NBA stars combined. Nike looked at the data and came to a conclusion the league seemed uncomfortable admitting. Caitlin Clark isn't just in the WNBA. The WNBA is orbiting around her. And that reality made certain people very uncomfortable. Because when the biggest sports brand on earth treats one player like the future, it exposes how hesitant the league itself has been. And that tension reportedly exploded during a closed-door meeting that was never supposed to leave the room. According to rumors swirling around agents and executives, a private discussion late in the season focused on revenue sharing and player marketing. That's when a comment was allegedly made, one that would come to define this entire saga. The suggestion that Clark and her camp should be grateful for the platform the league provides, that without the WNBA, she'd just be another player with a basketball. That comment didn't stay private for long. Once it leaked, the reaction was immediate. Not just from Clark's camp, but from players across the league, because that word grateful hit a nerve that runs deep in women's sports. For decades, athletes were told to be thankful for scraps, thankful for visibility, thankful just to exist. Caitlin Clark represents the end of that era. She didn't ask for leverage, she created it. And when leadership failed to recognize that shift, it triggered a breaking point. To understand why this moment mattered so much, you have to go back to 2024. Clark enters the league with unprecedented attention. And instead of protecting that momentum, the league allowed hostility to fester. Hard fouls, cheap shots, dismissive commentary, media narratives questioning her legitimacy. Through all of it, leadership stayed quiet. When Clark was knocked to the floor in a moment that went viral, the response came days later. When coaches restricted media access after tough questions, there was silence. Slowly, a perception formed that it was Caitlin Clark versus the world, and fans noticed. Social media filled with the same question over and over again. Why does the league seem allergic to its own success? That question only grew louder as the numbers rolled in. Fever games became traveling sellouts. Merchandise sales dwarfed the rest of the league. TV ratings held steady almost entirely because of number 22. And that's when owners started doing the math. Franchise values were rising, and they knew exactly why. But instead of leaning into it, the league maintained a fairness approach, equal exposure, balanced marketing, avoid upsetting other teams. On paper, it sounded noble. In reality, it was bad business. You don't grow a league by hiding your best product. Nike understood that. They didn't hesitate. They didn't worry about optics. They built around the star. And in doing so, they embarrassed the old guard. Because when Nike treats Clark like the female Michael Jordan with custom branding, global campaigns, and massive investment, it highlights how far behind the league itself has been. The WNBA spent 2 years insisting everyone was a star. Nike reminded everyone how pro sports actually work. That tension spilled into the locker rooms too. At first, jealousy dominated the conversation. Former players qualifying Clark's records, comments minimizing her impact. But over time, something shifted. Players began connecting the dots. Charter flights became mandatory because of Clark. Salary cap growth is coming because of Clark. Media attention increased because of Clark. The realization set in that her fight wasn't just about her. It was about leverage for everyone. If leadership was willing to undermine the league's biggest asset, what did that mean for role players? That's when resentment toward Clark started turning into concern about leadership. Behind the scenes, sources say friction between the league office and the Fever organization became impossible to ignore. Despite being the league's cash engine, there were reports of hesitancy around primetime slots and marketing pushes. The goal was equity, the result was suppression. Fans didn't want balance, they wanted Caitlyn. And when fans speak with their wallets, leagues listen. That's why the rumored resignation matters so much. If and when it's announced, expect polished language, mutual decision, retirement, new opportunities. But don't be fooled by PR phrasing. This wasn't a gentle goodbye. This was a power shift. The WNBA has officially moved out of survival mode. It's in expansion mode. And expansion requires a different type of leadership. Not cautious, not defensive, aggressive, media savvy, comfortable centering a superstar even if it upsets tradition. That's why names from outside the usual circle are reportedly being considered. Owners want someone who sees Caitlyn Clark as an opportunity, not a headache. And Nike's timing wasn't accidental either. Dropping the news of Clark's expanded deal right as the league enters the offseason was a flex, a signal to the market. Nike is betting the house on her. And by doing so, they're forcing the league to level up. There are even whispers of global tour clauses baked into the deal. Europe, Asia, international exposure. To old leadership, that might have sounded like a distraction. To modern leadership, it's free marketing. That philosophical difference is exactly why this shift was inevitable. The fans played a role too. Every jersey sold, every rating spike, every viral clip, they exposed the gap between the product and the leadership. This potential resignation is an admission that the customer was right. The people want stars. They want spectacle. They want a league that acts like a professional entertainment product, not a gate-kept club. So, what comes next? If new leadership steps in, expect a full reset. Immediate public alignment with Clark. A massive 2026 season opener. Scheduling optimized for ratings, not feelings. The fairness doctrine replaced by the ratings doctrine. Because that's how the NBA grew. They didn't hide Jordan, they rode him to global dominance. And the critics? They've gone quiet. It's hard to argue someone is overrated when the smartest marketing company on earth is writing checks this big. Money talks, everything else fades. Years from now, this moment will be remembered as the turning point. The resignation, the shoe deal, the realization that fighting your own success is a losing strategy. Caitlyn Clark isn't clapping back in interviews. She's clapping back with signature shoes and record-breaking contracts. The commissioner is leaving, Caitlyn is staying. And that tells you everything you need to know about who really runs the WNBA now. This isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new era. and the league is finally clearing the lane.